Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm very proud to introduce you to Mary Scott, who attributes her professional success to being taught critical thinking at a young age and being encouraged to be different. Mary, it's a pleasure to meet you. I love talking to my colleagues in the law, and I think it's time for us to have that old-fashioned chat where we let people in a little bit on what we do. So I'm going to start with the basics. How did you get your start in the law?
Thank you, Star. And I want to say also, this is such a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you for the opportunity. It's kind of funny. I got my start by default and by defiance. and by default, I say I started on a medical track. A lot of my family is in medicine. And so I thought that's what I wanted to do, looking at them. But I got a D in organic chemistry. So that dream died there, but it worked out all right. And I say by defiance because I remember my mother, who worked was a nurse in the hospital for about 30 years, coming home one day when I was in high school. And my mother's a really strong woman, and she was crying, which you very rarely see. And she looks at me and she says, "Don't be a lawyer." And at the time, I'm thinking, okay, why would I want to do that? It was the last from my mind. Well, things have a way of working out, and I think it was sort of, a little bit of the, forbidden fruit. Oh, I'm not supposed to do this. So let me, medicine's not working. So let me look into this law thing, and it ended up being a really good decision, turns out.
Yes, it seems like you are built for this. So I think that defiance really did kick in and probably turned into another D, determination, because you're not only a lawyer, you are a litigator and a trial attorney. I'm just curious, what kinds of cases do you work on? Because that could run the gamut.
Right, exactly. There are so many different kinds of lawyers and areas, and I definitely stay out of the areas that I don't handle regularly. So right now, most of my cases are either business disputes or real estate disputes. I handle all types of cases, from internal business disputes within partners or shareholders to external businesses fighting other businesses for any different kind of reasons. Also, right now, I'm seeing a lot of real estate disputes. I handle everything from purchase and sale agreements gone wrong to after the fact defects being discovered, boundary line disputes, title defects. Mm-hmm. One thing that I'm seeing right now that's kind of interesting is with 2020 and COVID, people are wanting to move more into single family homes or moving making a change to their home. We're all more focused on our homes. But you think with the pandemic, people were not able to spend the time necessarily in these new homes that they want to buy. They couldn't always bring in as many people as they wanted to look at the homes, to do as much due diligence as they would have been able to do without everything going on with the pandemic. And so unfortunately, I'm getting a lot of calls about issues that have come up after the fact, and people, I think, realizing if they had been able to do more due diligence, to have more people look at these homes, maybe it would have changed things. They wouldn't have ended up with these problems that they're now finding out about. So that's just something that I'm seeing that's a little different after 2020.
That's interesting because, the global pandemic has had such an effect on all aspects of our society. And I have to imagine you probably saw business partnerships affected in your practice also.
It's definitely having an effect on people's businesses and people working from home the last year and not being in the office. But I know some businesses where they were still requiring people to be in the office. And so that's causing some tension. And then it's also the courts have slowed down a lot, and the courts are very understanding about extending deadlines and things like that. But it's difficult to get documents from the other side, or even from your own clients sometimes. And that's just where we are right now. Everybody's a little displaced, but it has made things more interesting for sure. But it's also kind of a reminder that we do all need to work together to get through this. And it looks like we are coming out of it, but that is what I've seen in litigation and for businesses as well. It's been a little bit of an issue.
Yes, indeed. Mary, I've always thought that you could be a good lawyer if you have the ability to argue the facts, or if you have the ability to argue the law, because you're that smart kind of person that knows what the law says and how it should be interpreted. But in order to be a great trial lawyer, you really do need to be able to do both, as well as appeal to a jury. So I'll ask you that question. What do you think makes a great trial lawyer, in your opinion?
Being able to read people and understand people. And that's not just the jury. That's for whoever it is that's on the witness stand. And also something that I think gets overlooked a lot of times with trial lawyers who like to talk a lot is the ability to listen. You get a lot of information when you really listen to people. And so I think that's one of my secret weapons.
We always say that in conversation, we hear each other, but are we really listening? Are we really active listening? And I can remember some of my professors in law school talk about active listening, Ms. Jones, is really the key. So I have to agree with you on that. And speaking of which, I'm just picking up that you approach the law a little bit differently, which I just love to learn about, because I understand that your firm actually takes the time to get to know its clients before the so-called clock starts ticking. And what do you think, Mary, is the benefit to taking this approach?
Well, you're right. That is what we do, and for me, it's really an investment in my firm and making the right decisions about the client and the cases that I'm taking. And we all know that clients choose their lawyer, but the same is true the other way. Lawyers need to be selective on who they choose to have as their clients, and I find that you really get more of benefit out of that process if you take the time to do that before the client is actually paying you to figure out who they are and what their case is all about. I think you save yourself a lot of time, frustration, and money, and on both ends.
So as I look at the kinds of work that you're doing, I'm wondering, do you have any time for pro bono work? Because it seemed to be such a part of your personality to do give backs to our community.
Yes, pro bono work is so important. Every lawyer should do pro bono work. I agree. You need lawyers for a lot of different things. Not everyone can afford it. It's not inexpensive to get legal advice. And so for those who can't afford it, we certainly need to step up and help them out, because they have the need just like anyone else from time to time. So for me, I will take cases from our local legal aid, which is the Jacksonville area legal aid. They have a bank for different types of different practice areas. So you go on and you can look in your practice area, and there are cases that are just sitting there waiting for somebody to take. And so I will sometimes handle some of those cases through legal aid, but I also will take calls and consultations for cases that I think I'm probably not going to take, but if I feel like it's somebody that I could really give them some advice and point them in the right direction, I don't charge them for it, or what I call give them homework, then I will also take those calls. I will give that advice, and sometimes I'll even set a follow-up or two if I can help somebody out who otherwise can't afford it, and it's something that's going to be pretty efficient to get worked out.
I think that just gives us a feeling that we are actually doing something that will matter in the long run when you can help someone who otherwise would not be able to afford it and afford access to the courts. So I really do congratulate you on that. And again, I have to imagine with that in your repertoire, they have to be some community committees that they have tapped you to become a part of. So that's what usually happens. So share with me, what do you find exciting about some of your community work?
So I was the president of the Jacksonville Women Lawyers Association. At one point, it's a great organization. I spent time working my way up to president, and it's a great local organization. Really helps kind of mentor female attorneys and help them network, and we have male members too, so it's not discriminatory. But once I finished up my presidency there, I sought out to do some volunteer non-legal related work, and the organization that I do that through is called MNNAC, which is a local organization that like a Rotary may have more national recognition, but MNNAC is very similar, and our mission is to give help where none is available.
Fantastic.
Yes, and we focus on children. We're really investing in the future that way. So my favorite committee with MNNAC is Junior Achievement.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Now, how was Junior Achievement impacted by COVID? Were you even able to do that?
No, we haven't been able to do it. So we didn't, usually we will have a spring semester and a fall semester for about 4 or 5 weeks. So by spring, COVID had already taken its toll on being able to do anything in person. So it's been a year since I've been able to, or over a year actually. I'm hoping in 2022 we can get back to it. But Star, I know you know what Junior Achievement is.
I know, but you have to share with everybody because it really is so rewarding.
Yes, this is a great thing to be a part of. So Junior Achievement goes into lower income school areas for second, third, fourth, fifth graders and teaches them about business. And so you have business leaders and business people go into the schools, and it's a lesson, and then there'll be an interactive game or presentation for the students to participate in. And I will tell you, they love learning about business, and they really pick up on it. And I just enjoy seeing young people who may not have the exposure to, what are different kinds of businesses? What are careers that I could go into? If they don't grow up in a household where somebody's in business, they may not know. And they really, all of them just love it. And so it's exciting to see them get excited about, oh, I may want to be a lawyer, or, I may want to be an entrepreneur. And I just really get enjoyment over seeing the kids' enthusiasm for business.
It makes complete sense. What's that old adage? You can be what you can see. And what your work with Junior Achievement does is really just open a young person's minds to the possibilities of what they can achieve, what they can be, if you will, where they can go. And I'm thrilled to know that that's one of the things that you enjoy doing. Thinking about the next generation, I have to ask, what advice would you pass on to future lawyers, counselor?
That's a good question. Besides all the usual work hard, study, all of that, I would say, if I kind of had to boil it down, I would say to keep your integrity intact, keep your ego in check, and remember you're in a service industry.
Boy, that is the best kind of advice anybody could ever give, because authenticity, integrity, and ethics will take you the farthest. And everything about your career seems to have been putting those things together. Truth telling is really important from a lawyer's perspective. So what's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
Well, you said it really well in your introduction. To kind of sum up what I'm all about is to give people the advice to be you, be you, and be the best you that you can be, and don't let anyone tell you who you should be or who you are. You be you.
I think it's really, again, great advice. I always say you are the author of the only dictionary that defines you. The ability to write your own narrative is really the ability to tell your own story, and the uniqueness of your approach to the law, and your attitude in making sure that people have access to the courts is one that I think will carry us much farther and out of this pandemic. Thank you, Mary. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Star. It has been a pleasure.